Roll call, please, Tina.
Mayor Roland Dykes.
Here.
Vice Mayor Mike Profit.
Here.
Alderman Mike Hansel.
Here.
Alderman Bobby Knight.
Here.
Alderwoman Luana Ottinger.
Here.
Alderman Steve Smith.
Here.
City Attorney Terry Hurst.
Here.
City Administrator James Fincham.
Here. Thank you. We now have any proclamations on the recognition of citizens by the mayor or by the alderman. Ms. Alderman Ottinger, didn't you have something?
Approval of
you
the
want to
minutes.
recognize?
Sir, approval of the
We need
minutes.
to approve the minutes first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, I've jumped ahead there. In your packet, then, you do have a copy of the minutes for our last meeting. Are there any questions, additions, deletions for those minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Was that the motion?
That'd be good.
You making the motion?
Second.
All right, we have a motion, it's been properly seconded, made for the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting of September 14th, 2021, has been properly seconded. Please signify your approval by the normal sign of aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Now, we will have recognition of citizens.
I would like to say congratulations to Fire Chief Jeremy Shelton and the Newport Fire Department in conjunction with the other agencies in Cott County on the heroic efforts last week on the water rescue. I know that your guys had just completed the water class, the Swiftwater training class, and wow, what perfect timing is that. Hats off to you and your department and the other county departments as well, because there is a young mom and 4 children who are alive today because of your efforts. Good job.
Came just in time, didn't it, Jeremy?
Anyone else? All right, we'll move on. We have communications from a city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. The first thing I have, of course, is our COVID update. We currently have no employees that are out for COVID-related issues. We do have one employee whose wife has had problems for a couple of months now, and we're still praying for her. The COVID money, Tina's attending this 10 weeks of training every Wednesday during lunch. That's her lunch period every Wednesday. She's going to training to find out exactly what and how we can do with the monies. Some things look good, some things are still up in the air. But it looks like the best we're going to be able to do is probably going to be the first of the year before we'll actually have any funds. But the good news is that, well, there's a couple of different kinds of good news, but the one I'm going to get into now is it does appear that we will be able to go ahead and do some things now and then replace the money later instead of having to wait until the money actually comes in before we do it. So we're going to try, and we've got one thing on the agenda tonight that addresses that. And so we'll talk about that today. But, you know, I had a conversation last Tuesday with U.S. Representative Harshbarger and her staff, the mayor and I did, about the issues we've been having with the state of Tennessee as far as the COVID money goes, the way that they're trying to make it much tougher to meet the guidelines as far as reporting and paperwork and things, dragging out the county's already got their money directly from the feds, but the state has finally requested their money because they had to before the end of this month. So they waited right to the last minute to request it, but they have now put in for their monies. But in order for us to meet all their guidelines, it's going to take, because we can't do anything till this 10-week training's over, and it's one day a week. So that's 10 weeks. And you're what? Is this week 3?
I believe this is 4 coming up.
So we still got 6 more weeks of training to go before we can even do anything else. So, but like I say, we're going to be able to do a few things and then put the money back once we get it, and we're going to try to do that.
I heard other towns that's having the same problem we got. It's not just us.
Yeah,
It's all
but-
over the state.
All municipalities are
Yeah,
in
it
the same
is.
situation.
It's the whole state. Yeah, it's not just us. It's the whole state, and the state. And I'll tell you, and I told Representative Harshbarger this. You know, of course, there's not, and I get it. You know, there's not a whole lot they can do because once the state and the feds are two total different entities. But I firmly believe, I'm convinced that the state is trying to make it hard on cities on purpose, so that we will, and some have already done this, as far as decline the money, because the paperwork was just so much and the red tape was just so much. They said, the heck with it, just keep it. And if you do that, and you can do that, you don't have to take it. But if you do that, the state gets to keep it and spend it the way they want to. So they're kind of being a little dirty about it, to be honest with you, and be politically incorrect. They're purposely, in my opinion, and it's not just my opinion. There's others in other cities that have come to the same conclusion, that they're, because they weren't supposed, and this is one of the complaints I made too, they weren't supposed to make it any tougher, the guidelines any tougher than the federal guidelines were, but they are. And that was something that Representative Harshbarger said they might be able to try to address if the state's doing that, not following the federal guidelines. And they are not. And so the only logical conclusion to come to is that they don't want you to have the money. And if you don't take the money, or you don't spend the money if you do take it, or what your project gets disqualified, then, and the money doesn't get spent, the state gets to keep it. So it's my opinion they're trying to pad their own pocket, and I think that's dirty if that's the case. And I'm not the only one that's come to that conclusion. Moving on, Rhythm on the River. We were supposed to have that, y'all approved a fall concert due to the surge in the Delta variant with COVID. They had trouble getting bands, and they'd lost some sponsors, and so they're now going to put that off and make it a spring concert. So there will not be a fall concert, but they're going to try to do a spring concert. This is something for y'all just to think about. Every year we decorate the big evergreen tree down at Wester Park for Christmas. And Kelly Stokely, whom y'all know, has done a really good job trying to beautify the town during Christmas, raising money to put up lights. The city's put a lot of money into putting new lights on the tree that's down there now, trying to make it look as good as we can. We've had a little bit of trouble with vandals the last couple of years, with people for whatever reason wanting to go in there and cut the wires and destroy the lights. And we've been buying those LED lights, which are prettier lights and last a lot longer, but nothing will last when you cut it in two. And so why people want to vandalize that, I don't know, but that's neither here nor there. But here's the point. The tree is dying, and Kelly is wanting to replace it, and she's been looking around trying to find a tree to go in its place. And I agree with her. That tree looks really bad, and we've had experts look at the tree, and they have said there's nothing they can do for it. There's no way to trim it. It's got so many dead limbs in it. If you cut the dead limbs out, it'll look like a Charlie Brown tree. And so it's really on its last legs in a sense. What we would like for y'all to think about is, do we want, and I haven't mentioned this to Kelly yet, but I'm going to the next time that I talk to her, because she's been looking for a year now. She started about this time last year looking for a replacement tree. And it's hard to find a nice, large evergreen that somebody will want rid of that you can get moved. And it's not cheap to move them. And so, excuse me. So what Tina and I talked about a little bit and had looked at some numbers is to think about, do we want to put another evergreen tree back in there? The soil there is not very good. That's why this tree is struggling. And I think that any tree we put in there, no matter how pretty it looks when we put it in there, that over time it's going to go downhill. And so I think we need to consider possibly purchasing a large artificial tree. Knoxville does that. They have a large artificial tree. More and more cities are going to the official town Christmas tree being an artificial tree, and the cost would be close to the same amount, I would think, in looking at what. Now, an artificial tree is as much as you want to spend, but I think we could get something pretty decent for close to, maybe just a little bit more, but close to what would probably cost us to get a nice, new, big, live tree put in there, because it costs thousands of dollars to do that. And so I would like for y'all to think about that, and we can talk more about that later as time goes on. But we're not under the gun as far as got to hurry up, and it may be a little late to try to get one this year anyway. I think we probably have to go with what we got again this year. But I do think we need to be looking at it. We're either going to have to look at replacing the tree with a live tree or going to a artificial tree.
That's red clay right under that.
Yeah.
Where the tree is several feet deep when it's filling in. So you have to get on the right track.
If you look at it, you can see the grass doesn't even hardly grow around where it is there. It's just really poor dirt. Campaign signs. For whatever reason this year, people got election fever bright and early. And a couple of months ago, campaign signs for the county primary, which is in May of next year, by the way, started going up around town. And kind of ignored it there for a week or two because there's only just one or two, but then they just kept going up, and then other candidates started putting them up, and so then we saw we was going to have to address that. Now, our ordinance states that you can only put a campaign sign up 90 days prior to the election, which would be the 1st of February. And we're not going to count down to the day, get on the calendar and mark 90 days backwards and say right here, as long as it's close. But putting them up in, July or August of the prior year, that's just never been done before. And so ultimately we had to say something to the candidates about it. And for the most part, they understood and took it pretty well. There were some property owners that were upset about it. One city employee went to Facebook and basically talked about how low down we were for oppressing his right to free speech and all this. And we've had other people, I know some of y'all have talked to me about complaints you've had from folks saying, well, the city doesn't have the right to tell them what they can do on their property. Well, I beg to differ. We have codes and ordinances that cover a wide range of issues related to property. What you can do with your property, what you can put on your property. We tell you can't let your grass get too high. We tell you that you can't let trash be all over your yard. We tell you you can't have old appliances sitting in your yard. We tell you you can't have broke down vehicles sitting in your yard. And we tell you that you can't put campaign signs in your yard until 90 days before the election. So You know, that is one of the things, and some say it's a good thing, and some say it is not. You know, the county has talked many times about codes and ordinances, and it always gets voted down because they don't want to impede on people's property rights. And that's their choice. Right now, we have a couple of developers who are looking at doing some subdivisions on the outskirts of town, and they have inquired about annexation because they want their investment to be protected by codes. They're not that worried about police protection or fire protection. They're worried about the codes. They don't want it junked up. They want to say what can be there and what can't be, and that people's property values are going to be protected. So codes do mean a lot to some people, and it means less to others. But that is one of the things that you have to live with if you live inside the city limits. And that's not just the city limits of Newport. That's any city limits. Any town you go to has codes that you have to abide by, and has codes enforcement. And so because you know that some decided to get an early jump on it this time for whatever reason. In all my years, and maybe you all remember it and I don't, but I never remember people starting to put out campaign signs this far ahead of an election. I've never seen that before. And once one does it, then the others feel pressured to do. And I thought I had it under control and didn't intend to talk about it tonight, but I rode around today a little bit and saw new signs going up from another candidate. So that's when I decided, well, I am going to have to talk about it, because evidently it's just going to keep going on if we don't start publicizing the fact that, you know, that this doesn't need to happen. I did put it on, I had the staff put it on Facebook last week, and some people got to complaining about it to some y'all, and so we backed off on it, and again thought we had it fixed. And that's the only reason we were putting it on there then, is because we couldn't get them to go away. They just kept going back, popping up. And we were just trying to get some publicity out there. We weren't trying to embarrass anybody or make anybody look bad. We were just trying to stop it. But today, like I say, saw new signs from a new candidate going up today. And we'll have to address those now. But I wanted to bring it up in this forum just to try to get the word out there to the public. Look, it's too early to put these things up. And we would much rather be doing something else than having to come around and ask people to take down campaign signs. We got plenty of better things to do than that. But when they start to proliferate, we have no choice but to do that. Because there are folks that don't want them up, don't want to look at them. That's why we have this law to begin with. And we wrote this law, we modified it about 6 years ago, I think it was. And the old ordinance said you could only put signs up 30 days before an election. And we changed it to 90 to give them more time. And the other thing was we made it to where you couldn't have the big signs anymore, and you only have the smaller signs, because that we were getting all kinds of complaints from the public about what eyesores they were. And so the council at that time decided that they had gotten enough complaints about it, they wanted to address it, and that's what we did. And then we cleaned up the 30 days versus 90 days part of it while we were at it. And we also added that if you damage a traffic signal apparatus at an intersection, then you're going to be liable for the repair of it. And so those are mostly the changes that we put in place when we changed it about 6 years ago. But I just want to try to get the word out there. Look, it's not that we're for or against any candidate. As far as the city goes, we are totally neutral. As far as elections go, we will treat everybody exactly the same, and but we just can't have the signs going up this early. If they go up, we're going to take them down. I mean, we've made that clear to the candidates. Normally, if you go, and I'm sure when you all qualified for your races, you had the same experience. When you go to the election commission and you pick up your papers, your qualifying petitions, Josh Blanchard the election director will give you a copy of the City of Newport's ordinances that tell you what, when, and how you can do your campaign signs. Well, you can't get that till December is the earliest you can go get a qualifying petition for the May primary. Well, so he hadn't handed that out because nobody's picked up a petition. So usually when, like I say, people don't try to start campaigning this early and putting signs up. So it's never been a problem till now. And maybe we can get it back under control. But I wouldn't have thought it would have been such a hot topic. And of course, I wouldn't have thought people would start putting signs up this early. It amazes me. I guess we're getting to a point where we have around the clock campaigning. You just, as soon as the election's over, you just start campaigning, and as though timers say, electioneering for the next time. I guess that's where we're headed.
It seems to me a lot of people told me that they don't come here, won't come here because we hadn't got some ordinances to keep things county-wide, you know.
Yeah, I've heard lots of people complain about the county, especially people that have moved in here,
right.
That are used to having them, and about how their property values have been negatively impacted by the junkyard next door, the trash pile down the road that you have to drive by to get to their property, and it's an eyesore. And when the people come to visit, they say they can't believe you live next to that, and those kinds of things. I live out just right outside the city limits, but in my subdivision we have restrictions. But now those have to be enforced by like me. If one of my neighbors try to do something that I don't like, then I have to go to court and fight it. And I can tell you I would, because I'm not going to have a junkyard across the road from me when my covenant in my subdivision says you can't have it. Now, I'm not going to tell somebody what color to paint their house or whether to have a tin roof or any of that jazz. But you're not going to put a pig farm or a junkyard across the road from me. So, I mean, that's how I feel about it. Now, like I say, there's plenty of people that have the opinion you shouldn't be able to tell me what to do whatsoever on my property. And they need to go build them a compound up on Hall's Top somewhere and put a big wall around it and live the way they want to. The only thing else I have is to tell Alderwoman Ottinger happy birthday. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, James. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of boards and commissions and committees. And item A is consideration of appointment to the library board for Jeff Fancher's term.
Jeff still wanting?
No, there's
No.
another. They've recommended Pat Mason.
Pat Mason, yeah.
The library board has.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I make a motion to appoint Pat Mason.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion on the board to appoint Pat Mason to the library board. It has been properly seconded. Are there any questions? Other considerations? If not, we entertain a motion to approve by vote. We will.
I already made the motion.
You made the motion, but we're asking for a vote.
I vote, be good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aye. Okay, all right. Okay, motion has been carried, and Pat Mason is been approved to go on the library board. The next item is reports from committees, members of council, and other officers. For Tanner Preservation Alliance, is there any news? Nothing to report?
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Okay. Item 8 is the old business or unfinished business, of which there is none. Item 9 is new business. And item A is consideration of the first reading of ordinance number 2021-08, budget amendment for the city of Newport.
Mayor, I'll read the caption of that ordinance into the record. It's ordinance 2021-08, an ordinance of amending the annual operating budget and capital program of the city of Newport, Tennessee fiscal year 2021-2022. And I guess that's an ordinance we need a roll call.
Yes.
The majority of this stuff is house cleaning. There is a little bit of new money in here, but most of this is projects or equipment, capital purchases that were in the prior budget that didn't get spent. And because, especially now, if you order stuff, it takes you forever to get it. And so a lot of this is spending that was budgeted for last fiscal year, but we're still waiting on some of it to come in, and you don't pay for it till you get it. So we've had to move a lot of money forward because of that.
Okay. Okay, you've heard the amendment and the explanation. What's the board's pleasure?
Motion to accept that.
Second. We have a motion on the board to approve the ordinance of amending the annual operating budget and capital program, City of Newport, Tennessee, for fiscal year 2021-22, and it has been properly seconded. We need a roll call, please.
Alderman Mike Hansel.
Yes.
Alderman Bobby Knight.
Yes.
Alderwoman Luana Ottinger.
Yes.
Alderman Steve Smith.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mike Profit.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item B is consideration of resolution number 2021-06, calling for a public hearing on the proposed annexation of territory into the City of Newport by owner consent and approving a plan of services located at 1026 West Highway 25/70.
This is the next hoop we have to jump through to annex one single piece of property. This is, I think, step 9 and 27. That's not hyperbole. There are literally 27 things you have to do to annex one piece of property.
Need a motion.
Okay. What's the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to move forward with the annexation.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the board to approve the resolution as read. It's been properly seconded. Are there any questions? Discussion.
What is the business?
What's that?
What is the business?
That's the package store that was approved a couple months ago.
Any other question or discussion? Hearing none, please approve by the normal sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item C is consideration of resolution number 2021-07 to adopt the Newport bicycle and pedestrian plan for Newport.
This was,
Downtown.
yes, this was the plan that was presented in August. This resolution is just something that TDOT requires as a fulfillment of the grant that paid for it. So unless you just didn't want to put it in part of the plan, then please approve.
Okay. What's the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve Resolution 2021-07.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the board and a stereo second. That's for consideration of resolution number 2021-07 to adopt the Newport bicycle and pedestrian plan for downtown. Please approve by the normal sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I thought they already had a bicycle trail down River Street down there.
That's natural. This one's more official.
Motion carries. And item D is consideration of resolution number 2021-08 to adopt the complete streets plan for downtown Newport.
Same thing, just a resolution that checks a box for TDOT.
Board's pleasure, please.
I'll make that motion to accept that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. It's been properly seconded. Please approve by the normal sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries without opposition. Item E is consideration of resolution number 2021-09, authorizing the City of Newport to hire Vaughn and Melton for professional services for the Newport Surface Transportation Block Grant Resurfacing Project.
Yes, good job. This is the federal money that funnels through the state. We used it to repave Heritage and Prospect last year, and this is just the next project we're going to do. And we have to officially hire someone. These are the guys that I worked with last year. There's a rubric that TDOT uses to make sure that you don't show favoritism, so I went through that and they scored the highest, so staff recommends that we hire Vaughn and Milton.
Board's pleasure.
Motion to approve Resolution 2021-09.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve resolution that number 2021-09. It's been properly seconded. Please approve by the normal sign of aye.
Aye.
And any nays? Hearing none, motion carries. Item F is consideration of approval of additional funding for Walter State.
Last, I think, October, I asked for approval to have Walter State pay for the cabling at the Tanner Building, and that we pay them back, because otherwise we would have spent double the amount. We wouldn't have spent, but they would have spent the same amount of money we did, so this combined it, and you all approved it. But I asked for $17,500, and to make sure we're above board on everything, I need you to approve another $450, because the total was $17,950, and I threw it out from the hip that night, because that was the last number I thought, but it was a little bit higher than that.
So that's an additional $450?
$450, yes.
The board's pleasure.
Just audit stuff.
I make a motion to approve the additional amount.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion on the board then to approve the additional funding for Walter State. It's been properly seconded. Please approve by the normal sign of aye.
Aye.
And any nays? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you. I'll sit down now.
Item G, consideration of purchase of property on White Oak Avenue for a satellite park.
Thank you, Mayor. As I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the COVID money, one of the things that you can do with this money is to build up green spaces, parks, and that kind of thing. And also another goal of it is to rehab blighted properties. And so we have identified the need and also a location on White Oak where there are a couple of properties there that are right above where we have a small satellite park right now that is not really, and if y'all have looked at it, you know what I'm talking about. It's on a steep bank. And it's very narrow, and it's a very small piece of property that was donated to the city a long time ago for a park in that community. And it's very inadequate, and it's not very good to be a park. It's a good green space, but to put playground equipment in and the kind of things we put in our normal satellite parks, the little gazebos and the picnic tables and those kinds of things, you just can't put in there. And so what we would like to do, we've identified these a couple of properties there that are showed in your packets that we would like to, I also have the appraisals in there on those two properties, and I would like permission from you all to move forward with this project and begin negotiations on these two properties to see if we can purchase those properties to build a new park there. A long-term goal would be to add, since there's one piece of property between this new park and the old park, we would like to eventually possibly purchase that piece of property and just consolidate it all into one park, but that's not part of this. What I'm asking for tonight is to have your permission to negotiate with these two property owners. One's owned by an individual, one's owned by a group of heirs where the owner passed away, and it's come down to a pretty large group of heirs. And so, but I put the appraisal amounts in there for you to see, and it's my goal to stay really close to these appraisal rates as far as a purchase price. So, but I would like y'all's permission, if you're in agreement, for permission to move forward on negotiations in attempt to purchase these two properties, to build this park. And it is my intent to pay for that ultimately with the stimulus money, not with taxpayer money, but with the COVID stimulus money.
And I just want to add to what James has already mentioned, that one of the items in the ARP funding was to invest in traditionally underserved areas. And I commend James for identifying those areas and trying to do something positive in that community. So
It does. It checks a lot of boxes that are in the requirements for the expenditure of funds. So we are very confident that we can go ahead and take care of this and get our money back when we give us the money. We can put the funds back in place that we spend, and it's going to probably take a while, especially with the piece of property that's in the heirs, because there's like 10 of them. It's not like there's a couple. It's literally there's like 10 of them. So it could take a while for that negotiation to run its course. And so, but.
I love this. I love the idea of an upgraded park in that neighborhood. It needs it terribly.
The
So
ball went over the fence. It took them all day to go down and get it before we got back. It's hard
Well, they got
to-
lots of exercise.
that's one way.
Had to go to Walgreens to get it.
Fish it out of the river. Jeremy, we might need your men for that. I make a motion to move forward with this project.
Second.
all right, we have a motion on the board then to allow James to continue negotiations for the property. It's been properly seconded. Please signify your approval by aye. Aye. Any nays?
Thank you, I
Hearing none,
appreciate it. And I
motion
appreciate
carries.
the mayor's help. The mayor has been talking to some of these folks, just trying to kind of gauge their interest a little bit on whether or not, because if there was absolutely no interest in selling, then it was pointless. But there is some interest. I don't know that they'll pull the trigger, but
I've got one question. Can Bobby handle more mowing if you get that?
I think the property will be taken up with what we're looking to do. There won't be a lot of space there that we're going to have to mow with, unless we could get all four of them jointly together. But we think it's an exciting opportunity for us and for the community right there. So
yeah, they're not very
and
big.
Bobby can handle it.
That's what
Bobby can
I'm
handle
worried
it.
about. I wasn't worried about that.
They're combined, they're not that big, and the reason we needed both is because they were small. One of them we're technically just going to use for parking. It's just going to be a parking lot. And then the other one would have the actual playground equipment and the pavilion and the picnic table and those kinds of things on it, and that will about fill it up. So there won't be a lot of mowing and upkeep to it once it's all mulched out and paved and made a parking lot. So.
That's awesome.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, James. Item H is consideration of agreement between TVA and the City of Newport for Newport Utilities broadband.
Mayor, we got this on here a little ahead of schedule. This come into our hands late last week, and we went ahead and put it on the agenda, consulted with Mr. Hurst, and it was decided that it needed to be on the agenda, but then we found out that this is going to be covered more thoroughly in a final draft of this done after the joint meeting on the 26th. So respectfully request that be passed over tonight and will be revisited next month. And apologize for getting that on the agenda too soon.
Okay. In that case, the next item would be a consideration of authorization, Newport Utilities, to obtain a letter of credit, commitment letter, and a letter of credit from Commercial Bank.
Yes, I'm here on behalf of Newport Utilities tonight. We've been awarded approximately $163,000 to be paid out over a 10-year time period from RDOF, which is Rural Development Opportunity Fund. So it's monies that we're given to basically expand our broadband out into these other more rural type areas. But part of that commitment, or part of that recommendation, or that requirement, is that we have to get a letter of credit from a bank saying that, if something were to come up, it's money that stands up that, they could come back and get this fund back. So it's basically, like I said, $16,000. We will be using our money to put up, to acquire a CD for this. It's all through our utility funds that we have. So I would like to respectfully request this Newport City Council to authorize NUB to obtain a letter of credit, commitment letter, which is the first step in this process, as well as a letter of credit from Commercial Bank for $16,000, secured by CD. Like I said, we'll put up the funds for that. The beneficiary of this will be the Universal Service Administrative Company, and we would also like to request that our General Manager, Michael Williford, be allowed to sign this letter. And if you all would prefer, to have this as a reoccurring thing, we can come back each year, or if you would prefer to do it where you give us authority to do it each year.
I think the board's pleasure has typically been to have you come back and reauthorize it each year.
Okay.
So, if that's satisfactory within you, I think that's probably the way we'd like to proceed.
That's perfectly fine with us, yes.
Okay.
Appreciate you, gentlemen.
Okay, you've heard the presentation, then what is the board's pleasure?
I make a motion to approve the request.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the board then to approve the authorization of Newport Utilities to obtain a letter of credit, commitment letter, and a letter of credit from Commercial Bank. It has been properly seconded. Please signify your approval by aye. Aye. And any nays? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Joe. Item 10 is consideration of bids for vehicles for the Newport Police Department.
This is monies that were placed in the budget. An amendment satisfies that. There are state bid vehicles. Two of them will be police cars, patrol cars, the SUVs. They'll be identically equipped to all the ones we have. And the purpose for that is if an officer runs up to 555, he can also do the very same things he could in 554. So everything works the same and they'll be equipped the same. Some of those, the equipment will be use-overs. Two unmarked vehicles will be used, one administrative position and one detective position. They'll be replacing 2010 model Ford Fusions that are two-wheel drive, front-wheel drive vehicles. And the monies are there. Tina made me promise that I wouldn't go over $166,000 or I had to get a budget amendment. So all our bids were in the package, and I think it was 164,469.
That's very close. That was
Yeah,
good.
It's real close. I've read that number so many times I thought I had a dedicated memory. But those are funds that were approved in our budget. We just need your approval to go ahead and order them. The police cars will probably be here sometime next year, and then the two unmarked cars we can get delivered pretty quickly. We've had to go with a new vendor to get those equipped because our old vendor is so far behind, they don't even know what year it is, I think, now.
Okay. Board's pleasure.
Motion to approve.
Go ahead.
We-
I'll take a second.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
And did you get a second? Did we get a second? Okay, Mike Hansel, second. Okay, I think we need a roll call.
Alderman Mike Hansel,
Yes.
Alderman Bobby Knight,
Yes.
Alderwoman Luana Ottinger.
Yes.
Alderman Steve Smith.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mike Profit.
Yes. Thank you, Tina, for keeping check on me.
Motion carries.
Thank you all very
Check on
much.
everybody.
Yeah, really.
It's a good thing.
Nothing else on the agenda except for comments from citizens.
Can I speak as the chief of police in Citizens Place? We are hoping to have Halloween be celebrated on October the 30th in conjunction with the Trick or Treat at the Track. I have made a public service message at one of our local radio stations. I'm going to go bumming to try the other one, but it is our intent to ask people to celebrate Halloween collectively on October the 30th instead of the 31st. That would be on a Saturday night. And it helps us tremendously with knowing how to schedule manpower.
I don't think so. I don't think we need a motion to do that, do we? But,
No, that's been tried, and people ignore it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we tried to dictate that in the past, saying you all moved Halloween to Saturday night, and the public chose not to listen to us, so.
what did we decide at Kiwanis are we doing
It's
the Saturday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were going to talk about that today after the meeting. They were going to discuss the plans for that.
I would add that we've already had one of the larger private trunk or treats called and canceled because of the COVID. So, and I don't know what happened between now and then, but we hope to have this all together.
With the vendors that are showing up right now on the list, it could be the biggest one we've had. And this is going into 24. Our DJ here has given us a lot of plugs.
It is the 24th.
It's the 24th annual, so.
That's what I've been saying.
We've got great numbers right now, so there's no telling how big this will be.
This is a city park.
Yes, this is at the city
City
park.
park. Okay.
Somebody needs to tell my wife that. She takes everybody out to come to the house.
I'm trying to get the door to door, and Maurice's guys get them in and get them out. So that's the most important thing. 5,000 in 2 hours.
Any other comments from citizens?
I have one, but it has nothing to do with the town. But I've just been feeling like I needed to say something pertaining to Bobby. A lot of people probably don't know, or they wonder what's wrong with him. And I would feel better if I said something. Back in October of 19, Bobby had neck surgery on his C4. And they told us if he didn't have it fixed, he would be paralyzed. Well, it's thrown his balance off in his walking. There's nothing else wrong with him except his walking and his balance. That's why you see me walking him in and wheeling him in. But I just wanted to make that clear because I've been feeling very uncomfortable about that and wonder if people was wondering what's wrong with him. But there's nothing else wrong with him besides his walking and his balance. And I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Trina.
We love Bobby Knight. We love Bobby Knight. Need a roll call.
Yeah, we need a roll call on that one. Okay. Any other comments from citizens? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second? Motion. Second, it's been seconded, we are adjourned.